Coffee is here. I am here. This is, there we go. No, not right there. There, right there. That's where we're going. Okay. As if I'm going to do something physical with my hands, rubbing my hands together. And 3, 2. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Tuesday. It's April 13th, 2021. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. I'm not going to lie. This is one of the best parts of the day. Waking up, having coffee, talking to all of you, even though most of you don't talk back, it has always been a good thing for me because it represents a new start to the day. It's opportunity. It's fresh. It's a reset. Today could bring any number of things. And I wake up hopeful every day that today will be better than yesterday, especially of late. Yesterday sucked. Yesterday was an incredibly hard day. And not for any particular reason. It just, all the stuff that I'm dealing with. It just was. So, I went to bed and woke up and just said, you know what? Today will be better. And I'm hopeful it will be. And if it's not, then I'll be hopeful tomorrow will be. Because eventually it will be. Eventually one of these days will be better. And I will start to heal. I guess I already am. Stacy says, good morning from my kitties and me to you and yours. Well, thank you. Good morning to you. Kitty was incredibly annoying yesterday. Incredibly annoying. It was not a good day for her to be that way, but she was. Had a conversation with the woodchuck in the backyard, let him know that he needed to relocate or I was going to relocate him. He did not seem to care. So, I gotta trap him. Gonna have to happen. I'm bummed about that, but you know what? It is what it is. Take him somewhere. Wonder where? I don't know. I got a few ideas. I got some ideas of where we can take this guy, and hopefully he can find a new home. It's early enough in the season. That's why I didn't do it last year. Was it just by the time I realized he was going to be problematic. And I say he, it could be a she. I don't know. By the time I realized this woodchuck was going to be problematic, I did not feel comfortable relocating, especially given that there was a possibility that there would be young in there. There were not. At least I never saw them. So now I have filled in one of the holes to the burrow 3 times. Keeps digging it out. All right, you're determined, which means you're getting moved. I think my trap is big enough. We will find out. To have a hard trap. So it will not hurt him. I say him. I don't know. Yesterday, a bunch of client stuff, which is all going well. What else happened? Worked out, which I needed. It was interesting. I got to the gym. Barely talked to anybody, put my headphones in, had my hood up, and everybody just kind of left me alone, which was what I needed yesterday, and I appreciated it. Most of the time, I am more than happy to talk to people. I enjoy the conversations at the gym. Wonderful groups of people, but I couldn't handle it yesterday. Stacy says, how many woodchucks would a Lesniak chuck if a Lesniak could chuck woodchucks? I would chuck this single woodchuck far enough that he would not come back. That is the distance of chucking of woodchucks. There's another one. There's another burrow that's further on the corner of my property. But that one I only saw come down this way towards where, gardens are going to be once, maybe twice all summer. And this one here, if it contained itself to the backyard, was fine, but by the end of summer, was getting to the front yard where all the food is going to be. So, nope, not happening. You can pound sand. What's going on today? Today's an interesting day. Something I've been putting off and putting off and putting off. And I'm hopeful it goes well, and I am hopeful that it will be a positive thing for me. I'm recording the audio version of the novel of Faith. We will see how that goes. I should be able to knock it all out in one day. We will see. My speech patterns have mostly returned to normal after dealing with this Invisalign thing. Every once in a while I catch myself, though. I will slur over something, and it comes through funny. So I have to make sure I pick up on those spots in the moment. But I will record, and I will have someone listen to them, and then I will edit them. And then we'll go from there. We do sell audio versions of the Martial Artist Handbook, and I think we've sold like 15. That's it. It has not been a big seller. But let's be real. Would you rather hear me talk about martial arts, or would you rather hear me read a novel? I'm assuming people would rather hear me read a novel. So I am hopeful that this will become something that actually sells. Faith sells, just not many. You know, we've had, I'm going to guess it sold 100 copies, if that. It's the best selling book that we've done, but that's not saying much. I was hopeful for more. Eventually, maybe. We've got to get the ratings and the number of reviews boosted up. There aren't enough reviews. I wish there were. I wish there were more. But then again, I pay more attention to audiobooks these days on the fiction side. So maybe somebody will. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. We're just throwing stuff against the wall, hoping something will stick and really take off. What else is going on today? We're setting some timeline stuff for Martial Journal for the print edition, so we can circle back to the advertisers and say, here's what we need when we need it. We can circle back to the writers. Here's what we need when we need it. And we shall go from there. And those are really the two things on the day. Oh, and I'm getting acupuncture. I was supposed to have that physical therapy appointment yesterday, and I canceled it. I couldn't. I didn't have anything more in me. I was so completely overwhelmed. Let me share something that's been on my mind that I would like to share more publicly, but there are some people who would see, hear it, and become hurt, even though that's not my intention. When someone is in grief, as I am, when someone is hurting, we have this instinct to express empathy, to let them know, yeah, I hear you, I see you, I understand you. But when you try to take that empathy and turn it into a comparison, when you say, I know what you're feeling because I felt this other thing, it's one of the worst things you can do to someone. Because in that moment, it sounds like you're trivializing what they're experiencing. I have noticed this. Nobody likes to have their pain compared to someone else's pain. Just don't do it. There's my, there's my advice for the day. Now let's talk about martial arts, because it's way more fun. Oh, here's a thought. Here's a question. And I would like those of you who watch or listen to contemplate this, because I do need some advice. I have mentioned before that we would be putting together a flexibility program. That idea morphed as I realized that the goals that most people have are actually not flexibility, they're mobility. There's a difference between being able to stretch, say like a center split, and actually being able to kick high. It is entirely possible to stretch and be flexible without being able to kick high, because one requires the muscles to be loose, the other requires the muscles to have strength. Okay. So here's the question. Do I put together a program that is specifically for mobility, which, let's face it, it would be around kicking. The components would be flexibility and building some basic strength in the legs so you can actually kick high enough, because there are some drills that, yeah, are relevant. Or do I add a component of accuracy? So it becomes this complete kicking program. Here's how you stretch. You're able to kick high, slowly, and put your foot wherever you want at any time. Which of those two do I do? I have a tendency to make things too complicated. But we're already talking about two concepts that, at least in program form, do not exist for the martial arts world. So if you are watching or listening, please let me know. Either comment below or email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. Just let me know, because that's starting to percolate in my mind. And that means that on the other side of the audiobook and finishing the strength speed hybrid, which I did look at on Friday and went, I can't do this right now. It would be time to get back to that. It's time to make a new program. All right, so what'd you give me to talk about today, people? I see some stuff from Frank. I see some stuff from Stacy. Shout out to both of you. I appreciate not only leaving things here, but your friendship. Let's start with this one. Stacy asks, how's the indoor garden going, and is gardening helping you in this time of sadness? Is it helping? No. Because we're not really there yet. There's not much to be done yet. So peppers are going, and I looked for some things this year that were challenging that I wanted to do. I think I've mentioned before, peanuts were one of them, because we're kind of right on the edge to being able to grow peanuts here with the growing season. The other thing that we're on the edge of that I wanted to try, because I'm aware of, even though all the data I see says we can do this, I know of no one who's done it, so I'm trying it, tobacco. So tobacco is the only other thing that's under the lights right now. So I've got peppers, and I had to go buy more peppers because some of the pepper seeds I saved didn't sprout. But it's peppers and it's tobacco. Stacy says, I love raw peanuts. I don't know that I've had raw peanuts. I'm sure I have at some point. Yeah, I have. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out how those do. This coming week, it starts to the ball starts to roll faster and faster. Once we get into late April and really early May, that's when there are tons of things. There are going to be weekends where I'm planting, 30 seeds. There's a lot. I'm probably going to have to buy more tables. I think I'm good to go on the lights, but we will see. There are many things to be planted. And then when it comes time to transplant, that's a lot of work. That's why my garden plan is so comprehensive this year. Okay, so you start this on these days, and you got to plant these on these days. And I tried to spread it out so it wasn't too insane. And I'm keeping a log so I can update the plan next year on the weekends that were too much. Because I don't want to lose a whole weekend. And what about when it's raining? I don't want to be outside when it's cold and rainy planting 60 plants. I want to try to spread it out. but I do love gardening. Stacy's got another question. I'm going to read that at the end. And Frank's giving us 4 or 5 quotes from Garry Kasparov. On this day in '63, former world chess champion Garry Kasparov was born. Who was the American? There was this interesting proxy East versus West chess thing that was going on. There was an American who was chess grandmaster was matching up with Kasparov. I don't remember. It's not enough to be talented. It's not enough to work hard and to study late into the night. You must also become intimately aware of the methods you use to reach your decisions. This is what I've been talking about with martial arts for years. We are given these movements. We are given these concepts. We are encouraged to follow what our instructor tells us. In most schools, from what I have determined, we are not taught how to think about martial arts, how to determine our why, and how that leads us places. I've got a quote that you've probably seen pop up on whistlekick social media before. We use our techniques to inform our concepts, and then we take those concepts and use them to inform our techniques. As we're taught martial arts, it is because it is done the way it is because this is how we learn. How do we learn language? By repeating a whole bunch of words and ultimately understanding how they go together. How do we learn how to be an adult? By being a child and collecting a bunch of actions like putting food in our face or cooking or whatever. And then ultimately, as we grow up, we go, okay, this is how this stuff goes together. This is why it goes together. Same thing's true of martial arts. We're given a bunch of techniques. We're told, do this, do this, do this, repeat this, memorize this. Sound like being in school? But you do that long enough, and ultimately, you've got enough context to draw on that you can draw your own conclusions. And most of those conclusions are obvious, and other people draw them as well. But some of the time, you're drawing conclusions that are rooted in your own unique experiences, and thus lead to your own personal whys. And I think it's really important to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of martial arts schools don't encourage that. And most of the time, it is because the instructor, again, this is in my experience, your school may be different, and I'm not saying all. Most of the time, the instructor hasn't had that epiphany. They weren't taught, they didn't figure it out for themselves. I was taught this to a certain degree. No, I guess I would say I was taught this. And I'm really thankful for that. Yeah. Moving on. If I ever don't answer one of these things completely in your mind, ask me to follow up. Ask me to go deeper. Chess helps you to concentrate, improve your logic. It teaches you to play by the rules and take responsibility for your actions, how to problem solve in an uncertain environment. The best correlation between chess and martial arts is slow freeform movement. And sadly, it is the aspect of martial arts that I see practiced the least in most schools. It is where the secrets happen. It is where the magic is. It is where everybody really needs to spend far more time. Because if you move slow enough that your mind can fully dictate what you are doing, you get to truly practice the things that you need to practice. You get to truly look at how what you do impacts and is impacted by the environment around you. So whether it's individual movement, shadowboxing, or some kind of partner self-defense or free sparring, whatever. Slow. Slow is great. Be slow. If you can't move slow, you're going to suck at being fast. Straight up. There is no faster way to progress than slow movement. I know, it's ironic, isn't it? The biggest problem I see among people who want to excel in chess and in business and in life in general is not trusting their instincts enough. I've been talking about this for years, yes. I agree, Garry Kasparov. I'm going to say something that might be unpopular, but I'll say it anyway. We, in modern society, as a general rule, like to act as if we know most things. If you were to ask people, how many senses do we have? They would say 5. We have some indication of a sixth sense. That's why we call it a sixth sense. That's why it's kind of fringe. But there's actually been some science that indicates there's even more than that. Now, here's why I bring that up. Here's why it's not necessarily... here's why it might be controversial. We don't even understand how smell works. And that's true. You can look that up. We don't know how smell works. Thus, anybody saying there are only 5 or only 6 senses and ruling out the possibility for some true instinct, I don't believe it. Instinct is something that we have. We all have it. Most of us are taught to discount it, ignore it. How effective would your sense of sight be if you spent most of your time with your eyes closed? How effective would your hearing be if you lived your life with your fingers in your ears? To me, that is what instinct is. In our modern society, we ignore it. And yet, we have so many examples of people practically telling the future. I had a feeling. I knew I shouldn't have done that. You probably have some of them yourself. Think about that. As martial artists, more than probably any other group, we should be training and teaching and trusting our instincts because they're such a fundamental component to what we do. How have I lived as long as I have, being a target through a good portion of my life and never having been in a fight? It's been a combination of many things, but one of them has been trusting my instincts. I'm not going there. I'm not going to hang out with that person. I think we should get out of here. Right? You learn to trust those instincts, and it leads to a lot of... it can lead to some pretty substantial benefit. You ever have someone you distrusted, but you didn't know why? And later you found out, aha, that person was a jerk. Very glad I didn't go there, do that, befriend them, marry them, whatever. That's instinct. Solving new problems is what keeps us moving forward as individuals and as a society. So don't back down. Solving new problems. This kind of relates to what I said about instinct and science. New problems. What is science useful for? Positing a hypothesis and trying to solve a new problem. And here's the thing. With new information, new processes, new measurement tools, many of those confirmed conclusions need to be re-examined. Kind of like in most schools, you continue to do your basic forms. Because as you learn more things, You go back and you find ways to improve them. The way you do your beginner form, your first form, when you first learn it versus 5 years versus 20 years later, it's different. Even if you don't practice it to be different, it's different because you're different. Because the way you treat those techniques is different. Because the way you see that form is different. The way you see yourself is different. Even if you don't try to make it so, it will be. New problems in martial arts are constant. You hurt your arm, you hurt your leg, you get older. Um, Here's one that I've always enjoyed watching, and I don't mean this in like a creepy way, when a woman gets pregnant. Because the balance, especially in the last trimester, her balance and her flexibility are dramatically different. And the way she trains is different. And watching the cognitive process, watching the wheels turn, figuring that out. Oh, I can't just, when I kick, I can't just hold my body in this position because now my center of gravity is different. When I stretch, when I kick high, whatever it is, those things are different. And it's good that they're different. It gives us the opportunity to continue to solve those problems, which keeps the wheels turning, which helps support the further discovery, the progress of us as a martial artist and as a person. Last one here. What do you think of, oh, this is not, okay, this is not a Garry Kasparov quote. This is a frank question. What do you think of drinking apple cider vinegar as a health aid? Apple cider vinegar is a good thing. It's been elevated a bit into kind of crazy cult status. It's a fermented food, which is a good thing. I try to eat, and I fall down on this constantly, but I try to make something fermented part of my lunch every day. Right now, it's kind of a hybrid sauerkraut kimchi thing. It was shredded cabbage and carrot. It's good. Apple cider vinegar is something I turn to mostly when I'm getting sick or when I am sick. I make my own vinegar. Usually I make it out of pears because the pears that grow on my trees, they're ripe for like 12 hours. It's really hard. They're either really hard or they're rotten. Like there's very little middle ground. Whereas the apples that I have work better. I make apple butter out of those. But it's the same idea. It's a fermented fruit. Most of the vinegar you get at the store has been brutalized. It's not really as beneficial. There are some raw vinegars that you'll find that still have what people call the mother, you know, kind of the floaty chunks that look gross. Shake it up. It's good for you. Remember, it all started as food. It all started as food, and it's not going to kill you. There are many things that vinegar and fermented foods are. Something you should base your diet around, or something that is going to give you, significant weight loss. It's not one of them. And one of the questions, the last question we'll turn to from Stacy, was, what do your different black belts mean to you? It's a good question. And we don't have time for me to go deep on that. But they represent, I have black belts from 3 different schools. They represent 3 different stages of my training, 3 different parts of who I am. So my first one I received when I was a teenager. And that was not the culmination, but a pivotal moment in my childhood. It gave me something to fall back on. I've talked about this on the show, on both shows, that my original black belt was something I referred back to and still do, to say, I made it through that. I can make it through this. My second black belt in Taekwondo was really about advancing as a martial artist and being able to diversify and look around and tackle a new challenge instead of remaining in the training context that I started in. It was about stepping out of my comfort zone. And then my third black belt, my kickboxing black belt from Superfoot, was about, for me, it was about taking a step forward and tackling things that I, in some ways, struggled with. Diversifying my skill set and being more. I guess just being more is how we'll put it. I could probably go deeper, but I don't think there's a middle ground. I think it's either that surface or, 20 minutes. So we will leave it there. Good question, Stacy. Thank you. I appreciate you asking that. I love these questions. Bring them on. Talk to me. Ask me this stuff. Thank you. Okay. I hope you checked out yesterday's episode with Mr. Matt Hoffman. I hope that you will stick around and continue to watch content, listen to content, ask questions. I hope you'll subscribe and turn on notifications because we do this show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time here on YouTube. Catch you later in audio form. If you want to support us, patreon.com/whistlekick or make a purchase at whistlekick.com using the code FIRSTCUT15. Thank you. I appreciate you. Leave me some questions for tomorrow. Once I close the show, drop them in the comments below. And we'll hang out tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a great Tuesday. Peace.